Sunday. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of True Story Live. That was probably not my best radio announcer voice, but a
That
little
was pretty good.
radio announcy. Glad that you're
Yes.
here, and we'll say hello to everyone in the chat and give some people some time to come in. Yeah, tonight's topic is redemption, and this one was put together by Jennifer. And you get another little treat tonight, as she will be the one to read the write up. I will do my usual hosting duties and kind of choreograph the questions and things like that. But we have a great topic and one that is near and dear to my heart, specifically redemption. We'll get into all that in just a few minutes. But first, we'll say hello to our wonderful panel. And this time, I'll start with my amazing predestined wife and bride, Jen. Jen, say hello to the peoples.
Hello, peoples. And I wanted to correct you, even though I threw this together. It was Annie's suggestion. She had brought my attention to the Dr. Henry Cloud article.
Yeah.
And I did find out the reason I couldn't find it to send a link was because the Boundaries book that he wrote, just a
Yes.
fantastic book, by the way, if
Right.
anybody has issues with boundaries and
Right.
wanting to learn how to set them. He has kind of like an email list where he sends these articles through email to people that
Okay.
are members.
Yeah.
And so that's where Annie got it from. So I'll just make sure to cite him
Yeah.
before.
Well, thank you for correcting me.
Yeah.
I guess what I meant was that you put it all and typed it all in and pasted it
Gotcha.
and you put it all together and all that.
Thank you.
But
My
yes,
pleasure.
so both Annie and Jamie both have uh, their hands in this one as well. So yeah, I definitely want to give people credit when they help out, especially people close to us that don't take time out of their busy days to help us do the broadcast. And so
Yeah.
that certainly is the case here. So full credit to Annie and Jennifer and also Jamie for contributing as well on this
Yeah.
one.
I hope
Uh,
those girls know how much I appreciate them. It's very helpful.
yeah, well, if they didn't before, they know now because you just said it on said it on a live broadcast. So there you go.
Yeah.
So Glenn did the write up last week, but he's very busy, still working on some things around the house there and getting things done. And in fact, I'll let him tell you kind of what he's working on because I think people are interested in that. Believe it or not, when at least I am when you're doing construction, and I've seen pictures and I like seeing the before and after. And
Yes.
you guys have heard me talk in the past. I did interior trim work for, I don't know, on and off for 30 years, 30 years of my life. And I'm very good at it. And in that process, you get to see a lot of these before and after things. You come into a house with no trim in it, just sheetrock on the wall. And when you leave, you've got a, sort of finished project. And sometimes we would come back in after the painting and all that was done and the hardwood floors were finished and put in shoe mold. It's like the one of the last things, shoe mold and doorknobs before the people move in. It's like almost the last thing that happens. So many times I would get a chance to see the end result, what it was going to look like pre-move-in day.
Yeah.
So anyway, all that to say, I have an interest in what Glenn's doing. So we'll introduce Glenn. If you haven't heard his voice before, he's our friend from Australia, a very dear friend of ours, Jen and myself. And I'm sure a lot of the people that listen to the broadcast, had a lot of people ask about him and how he's doing. And when we didn't do the broadcast for a while, a lot of people asked me, emails and things like that, asking how Glenn's doing. So here he is. Glenn, say hello to the people.
Hi, how's it going?
Hmm.
How's it going, Chris?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. Yeah, it's been a busy week and got a lot done, and looking forward to the broadcast tonight. And yeah, everything's good with me.
Cool,
So
cool.
thanks for being here. So just before we get started, just if you don't mind, tell people what you're doing this morning after the broadcast and what you're waiting on over
I've been doing like 2 or 3 months of weight training. Labouring. Oh man, I was just saying before the show. Oh, gee, I've got muscles. Wow, what a surprise! Where'd they come from?
Oh, that's a nice surprise.
Yeah, you
Muscles.
bet. I thought, crikey. Yeah, it just goes to show you, doesn't it? Just hard physical work can
Yeah.
build you up.
It's a
Well,
work
not
based,
that. Yeah.
the work
Uh,
based stuff.
I was gonna say not that it compares, but Jason and I got back to the gym today. We were so excited. But it'll take a while to match Glenn's guns.
Oh man, I'm a small frame. It's like when I used to go to the gym. I reckon Sandra could beat me at weight. With the cardio, I could beat the people 20, 30 years younger. I was really good with weight. Oh, no good. No good. So yeah. So, but this has been good. I've enjoyed it. Only the weather's getting real hot now and humid, so
Yeah.
it's tough. It's tough going. So, other
How
than
how
that,
hot is it getting right now, Fahrenheit wise?
it's probably only about 85, but it's the humidity's like 80%.
Yeah. Oh geez. It's like you're breathing in water.
Mm.
Yeah, you're a lather in about 5 minutes.
Whew.
So usually when it's like 115 Fahrenheit, it's not as humid.
Wow. Yeah, it's not.
So we're running to get stuff done before it gets really, really hot. But
Yeah.
yeah, there you go.
Okay. Well, we'll try to end on time tonight because we know
Oh,
you.
that'll be good.
Yeah, we'll try to do that. Okay. So yeah, we're ready to go here. Tonight's topic of redemption. And before we get started, though, we only have a couple people in chat right now. I'm sure more people will come in, and as they do, we will try to say hello to everyone as we normally do. But there's two people to say hello to. Jen, if you want to do that, please.
Yeah. So we have Helene and Debbie, and they're both doing well, which
Good.
is awesome. Glad to hear.
Yeah,
Glad
to
you
hear that
ladies
too.
are here.
Yeah,
We
thanks for being
appreciate you
here.
guys, yeah, taking out the time of your Sunday evenings if you guys are in the US,
Yep.
hanging out with us.
Yeah, thank you. So if you're listening to the playback, definitely please give us a like. And if you enjoy this sort of content, let other people know about it. We're a small channel. We're not trying to be huge or anything like that, but we do enjoy having more people in the chat, and we enjoy your comments and conversations. So as usual, any of the questions that you would like to answer, please put that in the chat and put it in all caps or reference one of our names, and so we can see it, and we will talk about it here on the broadcast. Okay, so as I said, another special treat for you tonight is Jen will be reading the write-up. So whenever you're ready, Jen, we can get going.
All right. All right. Tonight's write up is inspired by the song Redemption Song by Bob Marley, as well as an article written by Dr. Henry Cloud, and the link is in the description. I did not get a link for the article, but we're definitely quoting, citing him. This is the main beginning part of the write up is an article that he wrote up that was intriguing.
Mhm.
All right. Dr. Henry Cloud's article reads, "The story of redemption is the greatest story ever told. It's natural to want to try again. When things go bad, especially in relationships, we want to find a way to make them work and to restore love. When business deals go bad, we want to be able to fix them and make them succeed. When we fail at a dream or career, we want to be able to come back and win.
Mhm.
The story of every successful life includes failure, misses, and obstacles that are overcome. But if redemption is to occur, something must be different.
Mhm.
A second chance is not a repeat of the first chance. A second chance is a moving forward to something new. There must be something new and different. If everything's the same, you are repeating what has already been, and there is no reason to think the outcome will be any different. Hope without a realistic reason to believe is not hope at all. It's only a wish, hoping that we are someone else will change. Excuse me, let me read that again. Hoping that we or someone else will change, or that a situation will be different, will not make it a reality. There must be a real reason to believe and try again. When a person or a situation has truly changed and is worthy of your investment in another try, you will be able to see tangible reasons to believe. If you go back, make sure you're going forward. Make sure you are not going back to the same thing just to repeat what has already been. Make sure you are truly moving forward because something tangible is different, either in you, the other person or persons, or the situation. Being sorry, yourself or someone else, is not good enough. Missing the good parts of what was is not reason enough to return. Going back to ease the pain, temporarily, mind you, is not enough. One of the biggest struggles we face is addressing the unsafe behaviors in others or a situation and knowing when to forgive, how to reconcile, and whether or not to let go of a relationship or opportunity. End quote. Jamie said, if nothing changes, nothing changes. And I say bingo. I'm also reminded of the quote by Albert Einstein that says, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Have you ever thought that thinking or hoping something would change would actually bring about change? Is it actually possible for people not to change as they live throughout their life? Within a relationship that is strained, can one person changing fix the relationship problems or the relationship itself? Annie shares, I think that if something isn't working, we personally end up in a conflict, either externally or internally, right? Usually, it initially manifests with emotions like being grumpy, irritable, restless, even self doubt and uncertainty. When this happens, then I know something is unbalanced for me. I am no longer where I need to be. For me, it means something needs to change, has to change. It could be the situation I'm in at the moment physically. It could be renegotiating boundaries in a relationship. It could be that I am not listening to my body and I need to rest or eat, etc. It could be that I have taken on too much when usually it's not really my responsibility or I need to ask for help. It could be that I'm trying to do things the old way and that doesn't fit with who I am now. How do you become aware, identify, or recognize that something isn't working in your life? Dr. Cloud says if everything's the same, you are repeating what already has been, and there is no reason to think the outcome will be different. Annie rephrased it and said, coming back to a difficulty or problem in the same way that you have always approached it usually ends up with us repeating the cycle and ending up without any positive outcome. Nothing changes. The outcome will usually be the same because we haven't changed anything.
Mm.
What areas in your life do you see a pattern of something not working well? Are we waiting for someone else to change in order to make our situation better?
Mm.
What have you changed in your life that is working better for you now? We hope tonight's discussion has helped to shed some light on some things in your life that might need to see some change. Thanks for joining us tonight, guys.
All right. Thank you, Jen. That was wonderful. Very good reading of this write up. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
And we'll say hello to Kelly Ann Dean, who just popped in. Hello, Kelly Ann Dean. Hope you're doing
Hello.
well. If you missed the intro, we're talking about redemption. Now, before we get started, I will say I really enjoy Dr. Henry Cloud. I've read a couple of his books. Read the Boundaries book years ago. I forget when that came out, but do you know how long that book's been out, Jen? I don't expect you to know exactly. I'm just curious.
I want to say from the 70s.
Yeah. So it was a book that my mom, she didn't ever make me read anything, but it was strongly suggested I read it. It was one of many books that I actually did.
Yeah, I think
Uh,
we have her copy and I think we have my copy too.
right.
It's funny, there's a couple books that your mom has that I have as well, and we have doubles.
We have doubles. And my mom usually would write things on the margin, circle things and
Yeah.
point to things and stuff like that. So when I would get a book that she had already read, it was interesting for me because I would have my own perspective. And then I would read my mother's notes and see what her perspective was or see what questions she was asking herself. That's the thing I mentioned to you the other night, Jen, that you were asking questions. It's one of the many things that I love about you is that you ask yourself the question. When things come up, you ask yourself, is this something I need to look at? Is this something I'm struggling with? Or is it something that, I'm good?
Yeah. Or it's somebody else's issue and
Right.
and I need to stop trying to figure it out for him.
Right. And we're going to have a topic for another time, which is roughly, is introspection a bad thing? Looking into yourself and things like that. Jen has read a book. We're not going to get too much into that recently. And there's some new realizations and some really good things in that. I think
It's
we're
going to
going
be a future write up. It's just hard to write
to,
when
right.
I'm in the middle of it.
Right, exactly. So, this is what we decided to talk about tonight, and we want to make very clear that the article that the write up is based on is from Dr. Henry Cloud, and I do strongly suggest his books. He is psychologist and counselor, and he had a radio show. Might still do it. I think, isn't he with Focus on the Family now? Isn't that where he is?
I'm not sure, but I did want to point out Annie put in the comments, the chat, that the first copy was published in 1992. So it wasn't as early as I was thinking.
Right. That's okay. That's okay. Yeah, but it's been around for a while. 92. It's been it's a long time ago still. But anyway, we'll also say hello to Annie. We're glad that you're here, and thank you for contributing the article for the write up tonight here on True Story Live. Thank you. Good to see you. All right. Okay. So I was also just going to say really quick, Dr. Henry Cloud, and I forget the name of the book, but it was about word pictures. And I think I've mentioned this before, and it was very moving to me. It helped me. My brain kind of works like that, and so does Jen. So also does Jen's brain work. That's not good grammar, I don't think. But I see pictures in my head, and using word pictures is a good form of communication. And I'll just never forget a word picture that he wrote about in his one of his books. It was from the perspective of a daughter whose dad left their family and had an affair. And then later, as she grew up, he came back and wanted to have a relationship with her after he'd been gone for a while. And she wanted to have a relationship with him, but she was hurt. And so she drew a word picture using something that he was interested in, which was playing tennis. And she made this word picture to help him understand how she felt. And just briefly, it was basically the word picture was that you've played tennis with this person for years, and you enjoyed it, and you were always there at the tennis court, and you're conning them to be there. And then one day you show up to the court and the person didn't show up, and you keep waiting for them to show up, and they're not there, and they're not there. And then 5 years goes by, and the person calls you up and says, "Hey, let's play tennis again." So, I mean, it's more detailed than that, but it's just the idea of how do you feel in that situation after they just dropped off the face of the earth. And I'm sure it's more devastating than it being a tennis situation, have your father leave the family and have an affair and kind of leave you behind. I'm sure that's devastating.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was Henry Cloud, to give you an idea of some of the things that he focuses in on, relationships and things like that. So I believe this is going to be a good write up. The other thing I'll say really quick, the idea of redemption is probably that and reconciliation, those two topics. When I listen to a song or read a book or watch a movie or just hear stories, the ones that get to me the most are ones with redemption and reconciliation. When someone has failed, just like Dr. Cloud says in this article, the failures and misses and obstacles to overcome. And then if redemption is to occur, something must be different. When redemption does occur, there's a lot of healing that comes with that. When reconciliation happens, when you see two people that were at odds before, and they set aside their differences and they work through it, and their relationship is renewed, that is some of the most heartwarming stuff I've ever seen. It just really, really touches me.
Yeah.
And I can go
Same.
on and on about the Bible being a story of reconciliation and redemption. It is as you've heard me say before, it is a love story. It really is. It's about how God loved us and what he was willing to do to reconcile us to himself and to redeem that relationship. But you don't have to just go to the Bible. Like I said, this topic is important in the world. There are lots of stories of this redemption, and divorce, and reconciliation, and lost friendships, and that are healed, and things like that. Those are my favorite stories. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Checking the chat, see if anyone new has come in, and not yet. Okay, great. So we're happy for everyone that's here. So again, if you want to answer any of these questions in the chat, just please put them in caps and just let us know, and we'll be happy to add those to the conversation. Okay, so we're going down to the first question, and it's after the quote from Albert Einstein. I love this one. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. I have used this comment before, and I have applied it to my life when I have caught myself doing the same thing, expecting there to be a different result. So I have experienced this. Uh, I'm I would guess that everyone has at some point experienced this. So you keep trying the same things. But we're going to get into this. So the first question is, have you ever thought that thinking or hoping something would change would actually bring about change? You want to start, Jen? Have you ever thought that thinking or hoping something would change would actually bring about change?
Yeah. Um, I was just thinking about this when you were talking before we posted the question. And it's interesting because in my last marriage, I had a lot of hope in
Mhm,
me that things were going to change.
mhm.
And some of that hope, actually, a good portion of it was attached to my ex saying that he would.
Right,
And then when there was no action following up the words,
right,
and there was still more of the same, I just found myself in a place of hoping
right.
that, oh, okay, well, if he says he's gonna, maybe he just means like in a year or
Yeah, and
sometime in the future, just not today. But yeah, I had a lot of hope attached to things changing. I did a lot of praying too. I did a lot of praying, but I think a good portion of the hope was attached to the praying and faith,
yeah,
but there was a good amount that was attached to him, and just
right,
waiting, like hoping and
right.
waiting and wishing, and that didn't do diddly squat.
Didn't do
The
diddly.
praying did, but the hoping and wishing didn't.
Right, right. Yeah, hoping and wishing in and of itself, yeah,
Yeah.
it would make sense
Yikes.
that that doesn't actually bring change. Okay, thank you, Jen. We're going to go to Glenn next for this one. Have you ever thought that thinking or hoping something would change would actually bring about change?
In the very dim and dark past, maybe. But no, for the last 20 years or so, I like just that's my reference point.
Yeah.
Nope, nope.
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 I very
Nope.
quickly came to the understanding of that a long time ago that the only thing I can change is me.
Hmm.
And hopefully, if someone wants to use that change in me to maybe manifest something in themselves, well, yeah, but that's their decision. I
Right,
can't
Yeah.
change. I can't change anybody.
Yeah.
right. Yeah, that's a fact. I
No.
think probably the three of us are all on the same page on this particular topic as far as knowing that we can't change anyone.
Yeah.
I certainly have tried in the past to say things or do things that I thought might help someone change. I knew I couldn't force anyone to change, but I thought I could be an influence. And maybe you can be an influence, but what it comes down to, in my opinion, is the person has to want to change. And I've said
Yeah.
that before. That's where I'm at with that. And if anyone has a different perspective, we would love to hear it. So pop that in the chat if you disagree with this. Okay. Thank you, Glenn. Unless you have anything else to add to that one, it's pretty straightforward. So I will just agree with my panel co-hosts and say that yes, I have in the past for sure. It's been a long time. Um, I forget when it was, maybe 10, 12. I don't know, maybe it's longer ago than that. But discovering that nothing I do is going to make someone else change. And for those that believe in Scripture, God doesn't force people to change either. He intuitively knows that he can't do that. Now he's God, and you know the idea of God is, well, he can do anything, but he chooses not to force anyone to do anything.
Yeah.
It's all voluntary. Now there are people that would argue, well, what are the choices? Either burn in hell or be extinguished, have your life taken away for not believing, or be forced into believing and spend eternity, floating on a cloud in heaven. So where's the choice there? Some people make that distinction that we're not given much of a choice between the two things. Um, that's a topic for another time. I'm just pointing that out. But uh, there definitely is not a forcing. Biblically speaking, no one's being forced to believe or not believe. It's an individual choice. Same thing is true, I believe, in life. On this question, if a person chooses to change, they want to change, then you can help them. If they have an attitude of, yeah, they're sick and tired of being sick and tired, they don't like something in their life and they want to change it, and they come to you and say, hey, I need to talk about this, or I need some practical suggestions. Then I'm all about that. I'm all about giving suggestions to someone that asks me and they have an attitude of wanting to change. It's a completely different situation. But still, even in that situation, you can't make someone change, and it certainly isn't going to happen by just hoping and thinking.
Yep.
Yeah, so I think we're all on the same page there on that one. Okay. I don't see. Oh, Annie says I hadn't considered that side. Oh, she's talking to you. Sorry. I think it's cool how you've known that for so long, Glenn. It's only a clear lesson learned this year in full awareness. Great. Well, there are people that aren't ever going to learn that lesson, Annie. They're this. Well, I'll talk about that more when we get to the question. There's actually a question I'm looking forward to in this area.
Yes. Same here.
Next one is it actually possible for people not to change as they live through their life? Is it actually possible for people not to change as they live through their life? And I'll take this one first, if you don't mind.
No, not at all.
Yes, it is possible for people not to change. I've seen it. I've seen people that don't ever seem to change. Now you could argue, well, everybody changes in little ways. Yeah, not so much. I mean, they might move, they might change jobs. Those are changes, but we're talking about. I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we're talking about major life changes, changing things about yourself. Um, I have seen people just go through life and haven't discerned any change. Now, I'm not the judge of people. Maybe they have changed, and I just haven't noticed. Maybe they have changed, but I'm the one answering the question, and from my perspective, right? I think it is possible for people not to change. They can pretty much be the same their whole life. And you can see when they keep repeating the same pattern, just like the quote from Albert Einstein, they keep doing the same things over and over and over again. And in my opinion, there are plenty of people that do that. And it is insanity. And
Yeah.
I've watched them. I'll just tell a quick story. I have a friend, I'm not going to say his name, but I have a friend. I haven't talked to him in a long time. And part of the reason why I don't talk to him anymore, this is the person that really concreted this lesson in my head that A, you can't change anyone. B, you can't help anyone unless they want to be helped, unless they're ready for help. Because I've tried. I have tried helping this person, and he has in the past had a drug addiction, and he would fail miserably. I mean, we're talking, have making some decisions where he lost his job and got a DUI, and even spent some time in jail. I mean, he really paid the price for his addiction. And then
Man.
he would wake up, dust himself off, and go right back into his life. And I would watch him many, many times for 1, 2, 3 years to do great things and be promoted at his job and go from not having a car, not having a license, to having a license again and getting a car and getting his own place and doing well, and just to have a phone call saying I screwed up. So this is an example of someone that kept going back to the same behavior over and over again, even when there was time in between
Yeah.
instances.
Yeah.
And in the past, when it first started happening, I've been in some bad situations. I've had to pay the consequence for poor choices. And I look at myself and say, am I the same person that I was when I made those poor choices? No, absolutely not. Would I have liked it if someone had helped me? Yes. Especially when you're in a bad situation like that. You don't have a license, you don't have a car, you lost your job, no money coming in. Yeah, that's a pretty desperate situation to be in. Would you like someone that would come alongside you and help you out? Well, sure you would.
Mm-hmm.
But I helped them at the beginning in every, giving rides and, sometimes cash and, things like that. And then after, 5, 6 times, he came to me for help. And I finally said, I love you, buddy. And I'm sorry you're in this situation. And I hope that you do what you've done in the past, which is to pull yourself back up and get your life back on track. But I can't help you, because you keep repeating the same patterns over and over and over again, and it is fruitless for me to try to do anything to help you because you keep making the same choices over and over again. You got to change something.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to decide that you're done with this. But I've also learned from Al-Anon and from alcoholism and things like that. I've heard story after story of people that had their 10-year chip and they go out and they'd get drunk and they have to start over from square one. And it keeps happening over and over and over again. And until the person, there's a phrase, it's until they've hit rock bottom, you can't help them. They have to come to the end of themselves. Just like the story of the prodigal son. The Bible says he came to the end of himself. He was in a bad place. He wasted all his money. He wasted his inheritance, and he ended up caring for pigs. And it says that he got so hungry he was thinking about eating the food that the pigs ate, and
Oh, wow.
nobody would help him. So it says he came to the end of himself and went back to his father and begged him to let him be a servant. It's one of my favorite stories in Scripture. But the bottom line of it is he had to come to the end of himself before there was actual change. And
Yep.
that's what it takes for people, unfortunately. And sometimes you can't help them. Okay, so I went on long enough with that one. That's my answer to that. What about you, Jen? What do you think?
I posed this question. Now I'm not sure. I think from my perspective, it has seemed like some people haven't changed. But then I'm kind of picturing this sliding scale. Um, Hopefully, there are some people that continue to change and they're getting better as people and learning and
Right,
growing,
right.
healing, all that stuff. And then it makes me wonder if the people that seem, I guess this could be a couple things. If there's people that seem to be staying the same, are they actually changing but in the wrong direction, like
Yeah,
getting worse, you know?
yeah.
But I guess there are some people. I mean, it's possible that some people could not change, just stay the same person, not be
Mhm.
challenged by anything, and just I mean, I'm calling it stuck, but they might not see it that way. They might
Yeah,
see it's just perfectly fine.
right,
Um, and
right.
After Glenn answers, I want to read some of his thoughts in the chat that could spur on some
Sure.
other
Okay.
discussion. But yeah, so I gosh, I think everybody changes, but some people it might not be for the better.
Yeah.
So that's my answer.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Jen. All right, Glenn, you're up on this one. Is it actually possible for people not to change as they live through their life?
In the context of the way you describe it, maybe, but I think realistically, people do change all the time, even just circumstantially. I mean, I just can't see how you could stay in the one box. But the other thing I was thinking, well, okay, if people around you change and you stay the same, is it possible that you get it into your head that you've changed and they stay the same?
Oh, so
Huh.
you're saying, like in my story, we'll call him Bill. It's not his name, but we'll call him Bill. So you're saying I've changed it, and that's an issue for me because I've changed and he's not changing. Is that what you mean? I want to
No,
understand.
what I'm suggesting is that it could be the other way around. When we look at ourselves
Mhm.
and we think, oh, geez, I've changed, I've done this, I've done that. No, I'm different. But another person could be thinking that they've changed and not you. They could see you have stayed the same. In other words, they're confusing. They don't even know they've changed or
Oh,
whether they
yeah,
have or they have not.
yeah,
The,
yeah.
so the dynamic can get quite convoluted. So
Yeah.
that what I wrote, just the last bit of what I typed out, only because I'm so tired I can't keep my thoughts in my head.
Okay.
It's I saw change more as not as a word that really is just humongous, and I just saw change more in terms of being open to experience and whether or not it actually affects you, or you still the exposure to other experiences give you more information as to make a conscious call. Oh, maybe I'll adopt that, maybe I won't, etc., etc.
That's a
Okay.
good point.
All right, go ahead. Thank you, Glenn. Go ahead, Jen, if you wanted to.
Yeah. I really wanted to read Glenn's thoughts.
Yep.
So maybe there are a few angles to this. Like, is there fear of change? Is there knowing there is an alternative to how they are now? Maybe I'm contented with my situation, see no need to change. Maybe not so much change, but to be open to new experiences to try them out. That first point about the fear of change, I do think there are people that are afraid to change. Um, Staying the same is safe.
Mm,
Staying the same means you don't have to seek and you don't have to ask questions and you don't have
right.
to grow. Um, that's my thought. What about
Yeah.
you?
Oh, I would agree that change is difficult. I mean, gosh, it's painful sometimes. And I would agree with you that sometimes our situation, even though it might be horrible to someone else, there's a comfort in it. There's a comfort in things being the same. I mean, how often do we hear this? Well, he doesn't like change. She doesn't like change. You know, they want things to be the same all the time. And
Yeah,
I'm sorry, but this world is
is
it isn't
changing.
the same. It isn't the same. Uh, Things change all the time. So, well, look who's here. We'll say hello to Renee. Renee is in the chat. Renee is a friend of ours. If you don't know her, she's a wonderful, wonderful person, and she's been going through some changes here recently. If you are not aware of what she's been through, they lost her house to a fire, and she's been in definitely been in a transition period and things like that. And it's just wonderful to see how well she's doing and handling all this.
Yeah. She has
So
stepped up to the plate with change, that's for sure.
yeah, she sure has. So welcome, Renee. We're glad that you're here. It's good to see you. Okay. All right. Did we all answer this one? I think we did. Let me see if there's any comments in the chat. Annie says, repeating behavior. I keep thinking of that fake sense of it being safe, comfortable with not changing. Yeah, we kind of mentioned that. So that's good. Um, she says, maybe not changing is also when we have found who we are claiming as ourselves, who we're claiming as ourselves. Yeah, it's possible too. Uh,
Yeah,
we'll,
that's a good point.
we'll say hello to John Dons, who just popped in, my friend from California. Good to see you, buddy. I'm glad that you're here. Okay. The third question in this set: within a relationship that is strained, can one person changing fix the relationship problems or the relationship itself? Okay. So, in a relationship of two people, if the relationship is strained, if one of the person changes within the relationship, can that fix the problems or fix the relationship itself? What do you think, Jen?
Oof, I don't think so. That's my opinion. I think what ends up happening, I think Glenn's talked about this on another show, but there ends up being a divide. When one person's growing and changing, I think there's no getting away from the person who's choosing not to is left behind in a
Right.
way.
Right.
Um, and really and truly in a relationship, it does take two people.
Yeah.
Um, Now I think there are people that get into relationships where the the success of the relationship is put on one person,
Hmm.
you know, and they are expected and required in a sense to be the one that changes to fit the other person. So in that unhealthy dynamic, I could see how a toxic person might think that that works
Yeah.
because it's like if I can make them into a mini me, then there'll
Right.
be no issues, there'll be no conflict. We can just both be the same person
Right.
and
Right.
everything will work out fine.
Sure. Sure.
But as we all know, being humans and being complex and having different morals and identities and personalities and all that's needs, love languages, all that stuff, it just it doesn't it's not lasting for
Yeah.
sure. And that was my experience. I truly um felt I was being molded into a mini me of my ex, and I for a time I also felt that that was the answer.
Yeah.
Insanely enough,
Right.
I didn't like it, and I was not happy,
Right.
but it was like coercive.
Sure.
And I saw him as being right, and who I was, and my opinions, and all of the things that made up who I was sort of made to believe, and ended up believing that that was wrong. So even I kind of fell into line for a little bit in this idea of, well, if I become more like him, there won't be a struggle. And there was so much
Right.
struggle. I was like, I'm so tired of struggling and suffering and fighting.
Right.
And, so that too, in a sense, coerced me to try out that craziness. And it did not work.
Right.
It was not good.
No.
He did not like me anymore, than he did before I was trying to be a mini him, you
Right.
know. So I think it may be in concept with some people. They're like, "Oh yeah, that'll work out great. That'll just solve everything," No. So that's my answer to that one.
Yeah.
Oof.
Wow. Thank you, Jen.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. So Renee said in the chat, one person can help it, but both have to be willing to see their part. Yes, both people need to see their part in its failure and success. A narcissist can have a successful relationship if they get the other person to believe it's all about them. I think that's what she meant. And yeah, thank you, Renee, for that. All right, we got 10 minutes, so we'll try to get through one more question. But I will go next. Within a relationship that is strained, can one person changing fix the relationship problems or the relationship itself? No. And Jen, your answer was really good. I can't really add much except to say that when you're in a relationship and you're changing, the other person's not, you quickly outgrow the other person. Maybe when you met, you're both on the same page, and then if the other person isn't interested in changing, but you are, and you're essentially becoming a different person every day. Now, this is the beauty of the relationship that we have, Jen and myself, and I have some friendships like this too, where we're both interested in changing. So we're not the same person that we were when we met, and we don't want to be. We want to change. We desire change. So there's no strain, and we don't have to worry about this particular thing. But I definitely feel like great for the one person that's changing, but doesn't fix anything. It might fix you because that's all, like Glenn said earlier, that's the only power you have is over yourself to change yourself. You don't have the power to change anyone else. And if you're in a relationship that's strained, you changing only helps you. The other person might be spurred on maybe by watching you change, hopefully,
Yeah.
but it doesn't fix anything in the relationship. It doesn't fix anything. In fact, I would say that it makes the relationship worse if one person's changing and the other person's staying stagnant with no change. It makes them very uncomfortable. I would think that they would want you to be, hey, you're not the same person. We've talked about this. You're not the same person that I married. And my answer to that would be, well, of course not. Of course I'm not the same person because I'm changing,
Yeah.
and I want to change. So there's that. What about you, Glenn? Within a relationship that is strained, can one person changing fix the relationship problems or the relationship itself? What do you think?
I am not comfortable at all with the word fix.
Oh,
You might have, that one might have been predictable, but I think the basis of this question really comes down to what are the factors that cause relationships to be strained. And I guarantee if you take communication and truth out of what and see what's left, I don't think there's much. So I would say that fix is irrelevant. Two
yeah.
people have got to come together authentically, and
Uh-huh.
if they can do that, the relationship doesn't have to be fixed. The relationship will fix itself.
Hmm.
Uh-huh.
I don't see that fix as a conscious act. I mean, I just think it just doesn't gel in my head at all. The word fix. You can't fix anything. How do you fix a relationship, really?
Hmm.
It's very confusing to me, that word.
Would you use a different word in that question?
No, I'd say both of you get to the table, get authentic, and see what happens.
Yeah. And what happens if one either refuses to come to the table, or two refuses
Tough.
to even admit that there's a problem?
It's tough, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if they won't come to the table, you don't have any relationship anyway. So what are you worried about?
Right.
It's you got to be pragmatic about this. You can't
That's
fix
true.
something that's not fixed, that each person is not going to contribute to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
you've got to get on it. You've got to get there and get in each other's face,
Right.
and put some truth out there. And not,
Yes.
good.
Right.
What
What's really going on here?
from your point of view, what causes strained relationships? You've seen it. We've all
Oh,
been
yeah.
there.
Yeah. We've talked about this a little bit. I mean, lack of communication is a big one. Not being authentic is another one, like you mentioned.
Not being a safe place to
Uh,
share, either one
not,
of you.
yep. Not speaking up, swallowing feelings and emotions and not sharing them, keeping things to yourself, secrets. Yeah. So just rattling off a few off the top of my head there. Yeah, those things would cause strain. Uh,
Yeah.
so if you're doing all those things in the first place, you're probably not going to be strained, and you're not worried about, to use the hated word for Glenn, fix. You're not going to fix anything. You don't need to fix anything if you do the things that Glenn mentioned and that we've talked about on this broadcast many times. You know, come to the table,
Yeah.
lay the
Come to
stuff
the
down,
table. Table talk.
table talk. Yep.
Before our call ends, I just wanted to share Annie's thought.
Yeah, I was
She
going
said,
to go ahead.
does there need to also be grace for where the other person is in their place? This is a really great question. I was
Sure.
thinking, um, well, I had another question on top of her question. I do think that we should, as people, extend grace and understanding for other people that are struggling, or maybe not where you're at, but it's like, how long do you give grace?
Right.
Like,
Right. Because in your
and does that turn
situation,
into hope? Like, oh
right.
no.
Because in your situation, you had to give grace in order to even stay in that
Yeah.
relationship, and you gave 14 years.
Yeah.
until you had almost left another time, and he said he was going to change, and he didn't do a single thing, and you're done. So you do come to the point where you just can't do it anymore. So
Yeah.
that's a good question. Annie's question is a good question, and your question is good. How long do you do that? Now, some people's answer would be you always give grace. You never leave the relationship. And I'm not saying I agree with that, but some people's answer, they're stringent. If you're just looking at, well, God hates divorce. We've talked about this before.
Yeah.
And then they would never leave. It says, oh, we just need to keep giving them grace. Well, you can give them grace from a different apartment.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, if you're miserable and they're abusive, and you're keep beating your head up against the wall, and the person's not doing anything to change, and they have no desire to do the necessary steps that it takes to actually make things be different, then you can still give them grace. It doesn't mean you have to be in the relationship with that person. You can still be graceful from far away.
Yeah.
That's my assertion on that. Okay, we've got 3 minutes, so I'm going to proactively ask Glenn to go ahead, and I'm sure he's already got it set up, but we'll be right back in just a minute. I don't want to get any more questions when we're this close to the time ending. So just please talk amongst yourselves, and we'll be back here shortly. Thank you guys for your patience. All righty.
I'm just going to wait for the Hangout meet to come up so I can
Yes,
link
yes,
it.
sir. I'll wait for you.
I'm here.
Let's have a go. You do one. Let's see.
Jason, do you want to reread Annie's excerpt before the
We're
next
going.
question?
Yes, yeah. Okay, we're back. Thanks, guys, for your patience. And Jen was just asking me a question. I was gonna definitely read the next excerpt, and we'll have Jen do it before we get to the next question to kind of give it a setup. So we went through the first three, and then we're at Annie's comment, and Jen's going to read that now. Go ahead, Jen, when
Okay.
you're ready.
I think that if something isn't working, we personally end up in a conflict, either externally or internally, right? Usually, it initially manifests with emotions like being grumpy, irritable, restless, even self doubt and uncertainty. When this happens, then I know something is unbalanced for me. I am no longer where I need to be. For me, it means something needs to change, has to change. It could be the situation I'm in at the moment physically. It could be renegotiating boundaries in a relationship. It could be that I'm not listening to my body and I need to rest or eat, etc. It could be that I've taken on too much when usually it's not really my responsibility or I need to ask for help. It could be that I'm trying to do the old things the old way and that doesn't fit with who I am now. And I love that point she made.
Yeah,
So, this question is, how do you become aware, identify, or recognize that something isn't working in your life?
good question. I'll go first. Um, I've had this happen. So the way I recognize it is when I keep repeating the same patterns. That I recognize patterns pretty easily, but I think it can be more difficult when you're the one going through something and you keep doing the same thing. It's not working. And this has been frustrating for me. And I will use the example of years ago when I would run away from my family and go move somewhere else and live and work. And I was always thriving when I was not around my family. And then some time would go by, and I would forget why I left in the first place, and I would be invited in a backhanded sort of way to come back and work for my dad again.
Yeah.
And I would drop everything more than once and go back into the same abusive situation that I had left before. And also, there was a part of me that thought, well, this is all my fault because I was rebellious. And now I see it from a completely different perspective. I see it as no, I was running away from something that was abusive. And also the fact that I would do well when I would run and I would do my own thing, and I felt safer and better and standing on my own feet and not depending on other people for what I needed, and these were good times in my life. But I realized that it was because there was a part of me that wanted that desired this relationship with my family, and I wanted things to quote unquote change. I wanted them to change toward me. I wanted to make them change, and I thought I could make them change if I kept proving over and over and over again, showing them in many different ways that I had changed. I'm not the same person that they're mad at for 40 years. And it never worked, guys. It never worked. So I identified it myself by recognizing certain patterns that kept repeating. That's the biggest way for me. That's the first thing that came up into my head is just recognizing the patterns and seeing that, hey, this isn't working, and it keeps not working.
Yeah.
Bad grammar again, but it's good. It keeps not working. Like if okay,
It continues to not work.
it continues to not work. So if you have a car and it's your only vehicle to get you back and forth to work, and the engine keeps going out in it, and you keep getting it fixed and it just keeps happening, eventually you have to come to the point where is it worth continuing to put the money back into it? Well, if we should have the same attitude about things that don't go right in our life, if it keeps happening, something needs to change drastically in order to not keep repeating the same patterns over and over again. And it seems so simple. It seems like, hey, this is common sense, guys. Yeah, if something keeps happening and it's not working, we'll do something to change it.
Yeah.
But it's harder than it sounds. It is. It was hard for me. It was hard for me because there is a comfort, even if you're not aware of it, there's a comfort in things staying the same, and there's a comfort in patterns, even unhealthy patterns. It's not good. So yeah, that's my answer for that.
I was going to say on the tail end of your comment, I'm amazed at how well we can fool ourselves.
Mhm.
And I'll tie this up with my answer to this question.
Okay.
So how do you become aware, identify, or recognize that something isn't working in your life? I have one word. Glenn. Now, that might not be everybody's answer, but while you were talking, I was thinking, okay, so I do think for a long time I was fooling myself.
Mhm.
I was trying to prove in my situation, the goalpost kept being moved, and
Yeah.
I'd have to prove even more.
Yeah.
And it wasn't actually proving anything, and it was so frustrating. And I really and truly, like if somebody would have sat me down and asked me what my part to play was, I think I would have thought about it, and that was where Glenn comes in. But I really and truly thought it was all him.
Yeah.
And my only part in it was I chose to be with this person.
Yeah.
But in talking with you and Glenn especially, and having a safe place because I wasn't talking to my family about a lot of the things that were going on in the marriage because my heart was for my family and my ex to bond and to become friends and spend time together and love each other. And that wasn't anywhere close to happening, but I felt if I shared a lot of the things that were happening behind closed doors that I was burning that bridge, and I didn't want that. So, in having a safe place to talk with you and Glenn about what was going on through the show, because a lot of the things, the topics that we were talking about through
Uh-huh.
TSL at that
Yeah.
time, we were pulling it from personal things that were happening in
Sure.
our lives. And for me, it was just this craziness that was going on. And um, it boggles my mind how many times Glenn had to ask questions and reframe questions and continue to drill into me this concept that I had a choice. I had many choices, and I also had a part to play in what was going on. And I remember walking away from conversations with Glenn, and my brain would be tingling because it was almost like his questions were battering ramming, that's not correct,
Battery
down
ramming.
down these walls that I had built up that were blocking me from seeing my part that was playing into the situation I was
Right.
in.
I got you.
And so I'm like, wait. So sometimes it's people that come across your path in life that
Uh-huh.
um from Glenn's perspective, doesn't give a rat's patootie what you think about him. So he's very bold in these questions he
Right.
asks. Like some of the things he asked me, I was like, oh my gosh, I'd be sweating like really profusely if I was to
Yeah.
pose these questions to somebody.
Yeah.
But that's because I care about what people think. I'm working on it. But but yeah, so that's my answer. That sometimes it takes people coming across your path to point out the pattern, to help you identify and to recognize that something isn't working.
Mhm.
I do think there are times where people can realize that within themselves, because of it's happening over and then finding themselves in the same spot over and over again,
Right.
like you had. But for me, it was two pretty cool people that really helped me again have a safe place to share
Yeah.
and to point out some really hard things, and they were really hard pills, big pills to swallow, but
Sure.
it led to my getting free of an abusive situation,
Yeah.
and forever grateful.
Yeah. Thank you, Jen. That was good stuff. So while you were talking, I just kept remembering this one time that I was in Florida, and this was back in the early '90s, and I had uh, actually I moved and I moved in with Rob John Dons, was in the chat. I don't know if he's still here, but I had moved there and stayed with him and his wife and their infant daughter, and lived in Florida with them for a while. And then I moved from there further south, and I stayed with my grandparents. Lived with them in a very nice house, and then they had a pool, and I worked two jobs and got a tan and a nice car, and I was really happy in so many ways. And I for 2 years, and I had money, and was taking care of my bills and making friendships and all of that. And my dad called me and said, I really have a lot of work and I really could use your help. And like an idiot, I I gave notice on my two jobs, and I gave notice to my grandparents, and pulled up stakes and moved right back into the same abusive, disruptive situation, dysfunctional that I had been in before.
Oof.
That is the definition that we're talking about of insanity, repeating what already has been. There's no reason to think the outcome will be different, but I thought it would be different. And I don't know if it's that I forgot. I couldn't possibly have forgotten. So there was a part of me, I think it was because deep down inside, I had this strong, strong desire, thinking that finally my parents are going to see me for who I am now. They're going to pat me on the back and they're going to say, "Hey, Jason, we finally see you're an adult and you're working two jobs and you got a tan and a nice car and you're paying your bills and you're making friends and all of that. Bravo.
Yes. And it
Congratulations."
didn't come, did it?
It
We're
never
like,
came.
where is it, crickets?
I'm still waiting. I'm still waiting on my family to recognize that it's a shame, but also a gift when people that aren't part of your family can see you clearly, and they say, "Whoa!" Even Glenn of all people has said to me, "I've seen you change." Of course, he goes to the other end of it first and says, "Yeah, I really thought you were, going down the wrong path, and blah blah blah." His perception of me was, in my opinion, quite a bit worse than the reality of where I was. But it's his
Yeah.
opinion, it's his perspective. But at least he noticed some change. Where from my family, the people that I really wanted to hear those words from, never happens. Never. Anyway,
Did you read his comment?
so Crips, you were looking for validation. Waste of time, buddy.
Isn't that interesting, though, how people that are outside of our family circle a lot of the times can see us more clearly?
Yeah.
But you've said many times to me it's because you don't have that history. And I
Right.
think there's so much truth in that.
Right.
And how you and Glenn have both talked to me about roles.
Yeah.
Your family casts you in a specific role, and you play that role for a certain amount of time in your
Right.
childhood and young adult and sometimes into adulthood.
Yeah.
And then when you finally realize, oh my gosh, I have a choice. I can change this. I don't, I can
Yeah.
change who I am, change what I'm doing.
Uh-huh.
A lot of times it rocks the boat with
Right.
your family because they don't want you stepping out of that role or it's
Right.
uncomfortable for
Yes,
them.
that's true.
And
That's
change
true.
in us can be uncomfortable for people around us, especially if who we were benefits them in some way.
Yes.
Or
Listen to you.
or it in a way challenges them,
Yeah.
to change them and they don't want to, or it's uncomfortable or scary,
Yeah.
so go back to that role. Go, go,
Go
go.
back. Get back in there. Get back in there. Annie, before I go to Glenn, Annie says, "Oh, Jason, that's what I went through, trying to prove how I have changed, and that belief that this was enough to change them.
Yes.
Did we even
Oof.
know until we had become aware? Maybe the repeating was that we grew on awareness." Yeah, I
That's
mean,
awesome.
yeah. She continues sharing, talking, the different perspectives open us up into the awareness. Yes, and in order to do that, Annie, you need to be introspective. You need to be able to look into yourself in order to do that. It doesn't just happen in a vacuum. Someone doesn't walk up to you generally and say, "Hey, are you aware that you keep repeating the same patterns again and again?" No, I mean, you're looking into yourself. It's just a preview for what's coming on that topic when we discuss it. I think it's going to be wonderful and awesome. And then Annie continues, "This is true. I see it now. My life was closed up in mom and sisters, my son. I've changed the most since having a bigger circle." Yeah, so there may be some truth to what I said. It seems like people on the outside that aren't members of your family are able to see you more clearly, and also what Jen mentioned that I've mentioned before. There's not the history and things like that, but I do have people that I have a history. Marcus Dilly, we saw him the other night. He and I know we've got the goods on each other. I mean, we've known each other a long time, and we have seen each other in all kinds of different places in our life. And he mentioned to me just that he keeps bringing this up. He says, "Whoa, we have stories." Yeah, we have stories. And as you guys know, I wear my heart on my sleeve, so to speak. I'm happy to tell you all the mistakes I've made and all the things that I've learned and all that. But there's a purpose for that. It's because I believe that I'm reminding myself so I don't ever go back into the same place by talking about it, by saying, "Hey, this is what I used to do." I'm not embarrassed by that. I'm really not, because it's for a good purpose. It's for a lot of purposes.
Yeah.
And if anyone can hear me say, that knows me now, can hear me say, "Well, I've really screwed up in the past, and here's what I did, and here's the mistakes I've made," and they can look at themselves and say, "Well, if he could change, I can change." I hope that happens. I really do.
Yeah.
So if one person hears what I say and says, "Well, if he can change, I can change," then that's great. Then I feel like I've accomplished something. Okay. So, Glenn, how do you become aware, identify, or recognize that something isn't working in your life?
Have an epiphany.
Okay.
You change from when something's not working in your life from saying it's their fault. Who can I blame for this? And switch that around and say, what part have I got? What part have I played in things not working?
Yes.
That's pretty simple. Huge, huge. Change your mindset, and you see the world totally differently. So,
Yeah.
but forget about shoving it sideways onto other people and face up yourself. So, how do you become aware? Well, you just put yourself in the sights of the rifle barrel and
Yeah.
be constructively critical of yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. And while we're talking about it, Glenn, your comment in the chat, in this particular case, I completely agree with you. Seeking validation from my family was absolutely ridiculous and fruitless. It never gained ground or got any, there's no value in it whatsoever. Now, I'm not saying that validation in a healthy relationship isn't helpful. I can't twist my brain into a pretzel to come to that conclusion. But in this particular case, Glenn, I agree with you 100%. In regards to my family, me seeking validation is foolhardy. And
Yeah.
I finally learned it after all these years. I finally learned it, and I'm not doing it anymore. But I can't go back to Florida and get my 2 jobs back and get my tank in my car. I'm in a better place anyway because I didn't have a girlfriend or a wife. I didn't have a beautiful partner to share my life with then. So I'm not giving that up.
Stop validating.
And he said, would that mean that it's easier to trust others outside our family because of the roles? What do you think about that one? That's a good question, Annie. What do you think, Jen? Would that mean that it's easier to trust others outside of our family because of the roles?
I think sometimes yes, but like Glenn had meant, he commented a little couple of things below. He trusts his family implicitly. And I think there are some people that have
Yeah,
family of origins where it's
sure.
safe and there's authenticity and openness and
Yeah, good for you.
trust and all that stuff.
Yeah, no bitterness
But
there.
I hate you, Glenn.
Yeah,
So, I'm just kidding. um,
don't say you're just
but
kidding.
I know I screwed up.
It's okay.
Sorry.
No, don't say
That's
you're sorry
3 years
either.
later. I'm still learning.
Yeah.
Darn it. Um, but yeah, I think in some toxic situations or yeah, and sometimes it's not even toxic. It's just family history. It gets stuck in a certain gear, and
Yeah.
the proving and waiting for validation is just fruitless.
Yeah.
You just have to walk away
Gotcha.
and just
Gotcha.
have grace from a distance.
Grace from a distance. I love it. Okay, Jen, if you would read the next little portion to lead us up to the last 3 questions here. We might end early tonight unless we really, really stretch these 3 out.
Glenn would love that. He's got a lot of work to do.
I understand, and we may actually do that. We're grateful that Glenn came and set up the show, and he's here, and it really means a lot. So thank you, Glenn. But he has a lot of stuff going on his end, so we just
Yeah.
may end up finishing early. So okay, go ahead, Jen, if you don't mind.
All right. Dr. Cloud says if I have to burp, hold on. I'm not going to do that on the air. I'm going to make it quiet. It hasn't come. Okay, I can follow that. Thanks, Glenn. Dr. Cloud says if everything's the same, you are repeating what already has been, and there is no reason to think the outcome will be different. And Annie rephrased it and said, coming back to a difficulty or problem is the same in the same way that you have always approached it, usually ends up with us repeating the cycle and ending up without any positive outcome. Nothing changes. The outcome will usually be the same because we haven't changed anything. So the question following that is, what areas in your life do you see a pattern of something not working well?
Well,
yeah, you
I've
go.
already used the biggest example. That whole Florida incident was the worst. I have more. I have
Yeah.
other times that I came back.
Do you have anything current?
Good question. What areas of my
You
life
want
do
to think
you
about it while I talk about my
Yeah,
current
yeah,
one?
please. Yeah, thank you.
So I have a pattern of just really not good self talk in my head. And God is really helping me with that. And even slowing down my thoughts to the point where I can see what's going on there. I kind of picture one of those planes that's pulling those signs behind it that say something like, free Jiffy Lube, call this number. But in my mind, it's been these like fighter jets, flying around, and I'm still receiving the info, but I can't. It's going so fast, I can't stop and say, "Hey, wait a minute, that's a lie," or "That's not true," or "That's a really sucky thing to say to myself or about myself." So I really feel like God has slowed down and turned it into one of those slower planes, crop dusters or something. Um, and I can actually read what's being said. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute here, slow down. Anyway, so that's something I'm working on right now is
That's great.
my self talk. I'm like, okay, I've got to
Yeah,
stop this, and so
yeah.
that's my example currently.
Okay. We'll go to Glenn. I did come up with something, and I'm going to save that for last. So, Glenn, what areas in your life do you see a pattern of something not working well? And of course, your life is perfect, and you don't have anything like this. So, if you want to talk about something that happened, pattern a long time ago, then feel free to do
That was very not subtle, Creeps.
that.
Your life is perfect. Like, well, you
That's
know what? I have a pattern of not being able to put up with people who believe in flat Earth.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well,
Wait a
yeah,
minute.
yeah, because it comes up in conversation all the time.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, that look, I just it's not working well. Look, it just works. Look, shit happens. You get on with it.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line, isn't it?
It's harsh.
Well, but it's the truth.
It is the truth.
You've got to deal with it.
Oh man,
Just take it and run with it.
I
Don't,
forgot to put on my sunscreen.
the more energy you use whinging, the less energy you've got to go and do it. Do stuff. Anyway, that's my answer.
All right. Okay, my answer. So the most recent thing that came into my mind was working out, and
Huh.
I have wanted for a long time to be healthier and to not be thinner necessarily, but just be healthier, really. And I've gone back and forth over and over. It's been a repeated pattern that I've done in my life. And today got back in the gym after
Like three
taking a long
months.
time, 3 months out of the gym. And both of us we don't want to do that. We're making a choice that we want to continue what we started, which was very successful and eating right and working out and things like that. And today, it was really difficult. Now, it was difficult because I had a project that I was working on. I have reasons why it was difficult, but these voices in my head, these familiar, repeating voices that tell me, why even bother? You've done this before. You might go there for 3 months and then you're going to do the same thing you did this time, which you quit doing it, and then you beat yourself up about that you didn't do it, and then you go in again and you keep doing the same thing over and over again. What's going to be different this time? You know, that's the voice that's in my head.
Yeah.
Now it's not the only voice. The other voice is, oh, come on, like it's like Glenn, just quit. You just quit. Just do it. Do what you need to do. Get yourself together. What are you doing? So I have that voice too. But I realized today, as I was in the gym with Jen, doing the weights and stuff and doing the treadmill, those voices shut up. And I just was happy to be there. And I was grateful that I was doing something. And I was looking at it as not, I've got to do this for months and months and months. I was looking at just today, I was
Yes.
successful in getting into the gym. So, but it is a pattern. It is a pattern that I've recognized that has not worked well for me. And I've allowed the negative things of the past to keep me from doing what in the present would be very valuable for me.
Yeah.
And so I recognize that even though some of the patterns of thinking are still there, that I didn't let them derail me or stop me from doing what I wanted to do just for today. Now, Tuesday morning at 6 a.m. or whatever time we go, that's a different story. But each time I have to look at it day by day, not looking at it as like, oh, this is going to take, another year for me to get where I want to be, whatever. I'm taking it step by step. Okay. That's my answer on that one. Do you have a comment about that, Jen?
About the question or the gym?
About what I just said? You don't have to. I just wondered if you had any follow-up comment to what I just said.
It's just interesting to me how you and I are both struggling with the same thing, but in different areas.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough, but I do think pretty much what you were saying, doing, I think giving into the voices and, deciding to just give in and not
Yeah.
try is detrimental because it makes those voices louder.
Yeah, it does.
So yeah.
It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. You tell yourself you can't do it, and then you don't do it, and then you're right. You're proving yourself right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
I'm not doing that anymore. It's a
Nope.
pattern I'm putting an end to. I'm choosing
Yeah.
to put an end to it. Okay, and I'm just checking the chat. Annie says making a commitment to the investment in doing it, fighting against the default critical dialogue.
Yeah, that's what it is. Critical dialogue. Whew.
Love it. Love it. Okay, the next question. Are we
Oh,
waiting?
did Glenn answer this one?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Good.
Yeah, he went before I did, I
Oh, okay,
think, unless
gotcha.
I'm going crazy.
Glenn, did you go?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, he went. Okay. Are we waiting for someone else to change in order to make a situation better? That's the one right there. What do you think, Jen?
Oh my gosh. Okay, now definitely not. But just recently, I've pulled out of this situation, this mind frame. I'll give two examples. The most recent one that I struggle with was in August, and I just have had a history of feeling very unworthy with my family and feeling like they think certain things about me, and some of it's based on some of the comments they make or questions they ask, and some of it's just me making crap up in my head, I'm sure. But I truly wanted them to love me the way I love, and so that I felt loved by them.
Mhm.
And it just finally got through my head. Okay, again, it's like the same theme, but just applied to a different, situation.
Mhm.
I can't change other people, and people are different. And, I need to love myself and see myself as God sees me instead of trying to change the way somebody else is loving me so that I feel loved and feel worthy.
Wow.
Um,
Wow.
and so that was kind of a big deal for me to get to that point. The other example was in my last marriage. I truly, truly believed that if my ex would change, that everything would be fine. Everything would be all good.
Right.
And I can look back now from all the things I've learned since then and
Mhm.
realize that I was a part of the problem too, and I needed to change too.
Mhm.
It wasn't just him. Um, so that was pretty huge.
Like 90-10, 90%, 10%, but yeah.
Yeah. And it's interesting because I look back and I felt so much like I had absolutely no control. And that's why, talking with you and Glenn, especially Glenn, was so helpful because for him to spend the time with me and help me see that I had, in a sense, when it comes to me, I have all of the control.
Right.
But I just was so blinded by that and just felt so trapped and locked in, and felt like there was no break, there was no exit, there was no key to get, there wasn't even a door, it was just
Wow.
hopeless, absolutely hopeless. And it sucks to be in that place because honestly, I was really looking forward to dying. I thought death was my only escape, which is pretty sad.
Yeah.
But realizing that I had control, I had options,
Right.
not control per se, maybe that's not the right word, but I had options and I had choices that I could make. And I
Yeah.
truly didn't believe before then that I had choices.
Right.
Um, my ex was the authority in our house, and he
Mhm.
was right and I was wrong, and he was smart and I was stupid, and he was stronger and I was weak, on and on and on and on and on. And I just was like, I have just no choices. I have to stay in this.
Wow.
So, yeah,
Okay.
that's my answer.
Thank you, Jen. We'll ask Glenn next, but first, Glenn said in the chat, "I can feel your exhaustion talking about family." Jen, could you fill that comment in a little bit for us, Glenn? What do you mean?
Just when Jen says that, it just feels like it empties her out. Does that
Yeah,
make sense? It's just like it's so deflating to
yeah,
have that thought that this is your family. That's what. Why does it's like all the things that come up. Oh,
yeah.
why do they have to treat me like this? What have I done to
Right.
deserve this? All this sort of stuff.
Yeah,
It just like a vacuum cleaner hooked
yeah.
on
It
your energy.
yes, it sucks that they're vampires, even if they don't mean to be. It's vampiric.
And I don't think they're that bad. I had an epiphany recently
Listen to
that I wanted
you.
to just share with you guys. And it was when you and I were talking about this weeks ago, Jason, and I had this epiphany while we were talking on the couch, and I realized that I had been projecting a lot of stuff of myself onto my family, and I'm not meaning the bad. I'm meaning the things I like about myself. It was almost like I pictured my family being almost identical to me, and because of that, I felt like they were withholding. Like, oh, for example, I'm very open and I love to talk about deep stuff, and my mom does, but the rest of my family, they're very quiet and reserved, and I felt like they were withholding that from me. And I had to realize these are different people, and for all I know, that and my dad has even admitted to me that he's not comfortable talking about emotions and deep stuff. So, and me realizing that these are different people, I don't think with some of it, or maybe even with any of it, I don't think it's malicious.
Right,
Now, it still empties me out. It's still sad and disappointing and stuff. But
right,
me recognizing that they're different people, that they show love in a different way, and that they're not required to love me in the way that I'm expecting them to, or
right,
if I were to even demand, that they were to love me in specific ways. They're their own people. They could say, screw you.
yeah,
But to actually stop and recognize the ways that they do love, even if I wasn't recognizing it because it wasn't coming at me the way I would love. You know what I mean?
right. Yeah, I do
But
know what you mean.
but once I stopped and realized, okay, and just thought more about who they are as people and what they're comfortable with and their personalities and all that stuff, I can pick out the love that they show. And honestly, I think, and I could be wrong, but the times that they're asking about jobs and benefits and stuff, for all I know, that's their way of showing love. They're concerned. The way I take it through the lens that I've learned to wear with my family is, oh, they think I'm stupid, or they think I'm living in la la land, and all of these things that are evidence and playing into my own critical nature toward myself and the things that I've thought about myself in the past. I'm stupid and all this stuff. I want to
Wow.
say it. I want to say it. Did that make sense?
Yeah, it did. It did.
Okay,
It
good.
made total sense. Yeah. Great. Okay. Well, there you have that. All right. Glenn, what about you?
Could you repeat the question, please?
Well, of course I can repeat the question. I just have to find it again. There it is. Okay. Yeah. Are you waiting for someone else to change in order to make a situation better?
That is totally laughable. That's all I've
I
got
know.
to say. Yeah.
I know. I know.
It's predictable, but you're going to say the same thing, and yeah, whatever. Got to be consistent. Oh yeah, no chance. No, what? I'm not getting one of those energy vacuums. No, thanks.
Nope. Mm-mm.
Count me out. Thanks.
Yeah, you wouldn't put up with that at all.
Not a chance.
Yeah, that would be like us demanding that you validate us because that's
I would
and
say
and you've
I'll
already
validate.
nope.
I'll say if I want to validate you, I'll do it in my own good time and on my own terms. Otherwise, go jump in the lake.
Yeah.
Well, Glenn, this has been irritating me for a long time. I wish that you would just start telling us what you really think. I really do.
Oh, okay. I can add some four-letter words if you want. We'll get banned from YouTube.
Oh, do it.
Oh my gosh, that's
Come on, come on.
fantastic. Yeah, fantastic. That's great. All righty. We're down to the last question. I think everybody has answered. Let me just check the chat real quick. Oh, well, Annie says the realization of having choices. Oh, yeah. All right. So there's that. I was just going to add really quickly that what Glenn was talking about to Jen, that has happened to me too. I had just finally gotten to the point, and again, I've talked about this before, but Glenn and Jen both were instrumental in pointing this out to me about the proving. And when I realized that I was still doing that, that's what opened up all the other stuff. Realizing that I had kept putting myself. This has only been, I think it was like 2018 or 2019. So all those years, and I was even in the process of still proving. Like when I took care of grandma, I did not do it to prove anything to my family. That's not the reason I did it. But I realized that I thought, oh, double bonus. I'm doing this for my mother who put in her will that if I was available, that something happened to her, she said that she would like for me to take care of her and grandma, I mean. And she also talked to me about it from time to time. And so that was the main driving reason why I did it, was because I was single at the time. Nobody else could do it, I thought. And it's something I wanted to do. But I realized that there was a part of me that was doing it. I thought to myself, this will be the thing. This will be the thing when I do this and I'm successful at taking care of my grandma. They can't possibly not see me for who I am. They
Yeah.
can't possibly not see this.
Oof.
And I was wrong
Wrong.
again. Wrong again.
Oh my gosh.
Didn't change a thing. Didn't change a damn thing. There it is.
Oh man.
Glenn asked, did you gain any extra respect for looking after grandma? Not really, Glenn. I know my sister, our relationship has gotten better, my sister and I. And she did occasionally say some things to me. And thankfully they weren't backhanded compliments like say, well, I didn't think you would pull this off, but you really did. So there were some positive things said, but did it actually change? Did I gain any actual respect, extra respect for looking after grandma? No. In fact, when she took over grandma, which I'm grateful for because it allowed me to be with Jen, and I was so grateful, and I'm still grateful that Shannon took her quote unquote turn with grandma and gave me some relief after 2.5 years, and it was wonderful. And I'm extremely grateful to Shannon for doing that. But she acted like, oh, no big deal. And I tried to tell her, I said, this is harder than you think. She needs constant care and she's not getting any better. In fact, she's getting worse. And the way that Shannon did it was not the way I would have done it or the way that I did it, but she did what she was going to do. And I literally took my hands off the whole situation. I was like, I put my time in. And I'm sure there were some people that thought, well, you sure don't visit grandma very often. Why aren't you over here checking on her and all that? And I really was done. I was in a place where I was done proving. I was done giving of myself. It was a dry well that I kept going to, thinking there'd be water, and there was no water.
Yeah.
It's an empty, dry well. And when I was done, I was really done. Anyway,
Yeah.
there's that. All right. Are we waiting for someone else to change in order to make it? Did I answer this one? I don't think I did. Are we waiting for someone else to change in order to make a situation better? I don't think so. I don't think I've done that a whole lot because I am introspective and I wanted to change. Now you could
Ooh,
say what?
I was going to bring up your last marriage. Were you waiting for her to change to make y'all's situation better?
No, no,
Okay.
no. That's a good point, though. That's a good point. So I can articulate that a little bit better. I was doing my own thing. I did have hope that she was going to, because she said that she was going to change.
Yeah.
So there was an expectation that she would do what she said she was going to do.
So
But
then that left you with hope.
right, it did. But I wasn't waiting. I was still living my life. I
Yeah.
did what I needed to do and moving forward in my own life. Um, but there were expectations that she was going to follow through, and
Yeah.
then I saw quickly that that wasn't going to happen. And so I had done what you did in some ways, Jen, where I just said, okay, well, this is the situation I'm in. And before I got married to her, my godfather, Phil, had presented this scenario to me. He said, either you go into the marriage and hope that she changes, or you go into the marriage and know that you're making this decision with the possibility that nothing ever changes, or you walk away from it. And I chose the first. I thought that I trusted that she would change, and she didn't. In fact, I paid a dear price at the time. At the time, it was a dear price. Now it's nothing. I would pay it again to have what I have now. There's not any price in the world that I wouldn't pay to, if I had to have what I have now. Um, I really could go on and on about that, but I won't. That's my answer to that. So everyone answer this one. We're at the last question. What have you changed in your life that is working better for you now, Jen?
Hmm. Letting go of expectations of my family
Ooh,
has been a huge one, and
ooh,
really fully grasping, knowing myself and accepting myself has been a big deal because it's almost like it was hinged on if other people accepted me. I'll
right,
accept myself when other people accept me, and
right,
that's where the external validation plays in. And when that's not given and the opposite's given, either it's not and then you're filling that space in with negative stuff, or the opposite's given, like
right,
questions and comments that make you feel stupid and make you see things or hear things that are just negative about yourself.
right.
um I had a point and I totally lost it. I hate when that happens. um Shoot. So yeah, just letting go of that, and it's been very freeing, because I'm allowing them to be who they are. I'm allowing them to love the way they love. um and I'm just my self-worth isn't attached to that anymore. That was the point I was going to make. It's
Awesome.
not hinged on that anymore. So now my mountain is the self-talk thing, because I am realizing that it's very destructive. And it seems to be. I'm just amazed, like for even for someone who's as introspective of themselves as I am, and I'm not meaning that in a boastful way.
Yeah,
I'm amazed at how many thoughts fly through my head that I'm not actually conscious of
right,
that it's happening, you know?
right,
It's crazy because I have people in my life now, like Annie, especially, like when we're talking over Messenger, she'll come out and actually ask me, like, what were the thoughts that were going through your head just now? Or what were the thoughts going through your head when that happened? And it just having people in your life like that that pose those questions, it's almost helped me put on the brakes with the flying thoughts and slowing it down, having it be slowed down, so I can take a better look at the things that I'm saying to myself and thinking that are very destructive. And I don't think we realize how powerful our own thoughts can be.
oh,
And
I
again,
agree
I
with
I,
that.
I
Yeah,
keep thinking about that scripture about taking our thoughts captive. Yeah, for real.
Right.
It's like insane. So, and I, with this mountain that I'm on right now, this battle that I'm waging against myself in a sense, it's crazy because there's this tug of war that's going on now. Whereas before, when I wasn't super conscious about those negative thoughts, they just happened and there wasn't a war really. I mean, there was, but it was like incognito. And now that I'm more aware, I'm like, wow, uh, you start recognizing how much it happens.
Right.
And then you have to be proactive about counteracting those lies with the truth.
Ooh, proactive about
Yeah.
counteracting those lies
So
with the truth. Wow.
it's a little bit exhausting, but it's definitely worth it.
Wow. Great answer.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jen.
Yeah.
All right. What about you, Glenn? What have you changed in your life that is working better for you now?
I got myself a rocket and I loaded it with all the BS, trivia, garbage, and every other piece of insignificant rubbish, and I loaded it in and sent it into outer space. Now my
Nice.
life is way less complicated.
Were
Simplified.
you disappointed when it hit the dome and came crashing back down to Earth?
Mate, it's still going. It's still on a voyage of adventure.
It fell into a black hole.
No, they're too far away.
Yeah, they're very far away in
Well,
someone's imagination.
well, I'm sure some people have black holes in their life, and for those
Yeah.
people, I do, you know, have not sympathy, but you know the word compassion
Right.
for people that are in a black hole. That's for sure, but it's not me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Glenn.
Thank you.
All right. What have you changed in your life that's working better for you now? Everything. Everything is better. Not saying I've arrived at some place where I don't have changes yet to make. I think that's very clear with all these broadcasts, and you hear what we talk about constantly. And what's at the bottom line of it for us is for change, growing, changing, being authentic, moving forward in your life, not being stagnant. These are all things that we're trying to do. Um, so hopefully everything's improving. I would say that if there's any area that I wish there was more change, it's financial, but everything else, including physical health and all that. Even not being in the gym for 3 months, I didn't like just lose all the progress in my life. I didn't, gain 100 pounds or anything like that, anything weird. But it's something that I want to focus and work better on. But specifically, my relationships are working way better. And it's not because other people have changed. In fact, some of my relationships are a little bit better because I've changed, and it's because my expectations, just like Jen said, her expectations with her family changed, and they changed with me too. I have a relationship with my dad by the reality that he is not going to change. And so I can relate to him knowing
Mhm.
that if I'm going to have a relationship with him, I accept him for who he is. And that's how we have a relationship. It isn't deep. It isn't abiding. I can check in on him and, reach out to him, ask him how he's doing and all of that. And, run into him at Shannon's from time to time. And it's fine. Like, we don't argue. We don't yell at each other. It's not a bad relationship in that way, but I just know that there's not going to be any difference. I'm not holding out hope
Yeah.
in that area, and I'm not, attacking my dad or anything. It's just a perfect example. So the thing that's changed is that's working better the most is in general my relationships, and it starts with my marriage. That relationship has changed how I look at all other relationships. I'm really at the point where there are certain things that I expect in relationships that I'm going to be a part of, certain elements that have to be there, or else I don't have the time for it. I don't have the energy for it.
Yeah.
So That's my answer. So we have like 10 minutes left. I think we're going to be able to finish up and say goodnight. So, who's, did everyone answer that? Was I the last one on that one?
I think so.
Yeah, we've all answered.
That's it.
That's it. Hey,
That's
Joel,
it.
by the way, Joel popped in.
Hello, Joel. Good to see you, buddy. We're glad you're here. Thanks for stopping in. It's a pretty good broadcast. If you get a chance to listen to it, definitely do. Please, if you get a chance, that'd be great. Much love to you, Joel. We love you.
Yeah, we do.
Yep. Nothing's changed. You're going to be like that forever, Joel. Joel, glad you're here. All right. That's it for us, guys. We hope that you have enjoyed this broadcast. We're going to say goodnight and allow Glenn to go do what he needs to do. Thank you again, Glenn, for producing our broadcast for us. And I wish you all the best with your ever engorging muscles, and hope that everything works out well for you. Thank you to everyone in the chat who has stopped in. We had kind of a small circle of friends tonight in the chat, but that's okay. It's these are people that are almost always here, and we're grateful to have you guys. So thank you. If you're listening to playback, please drop a like on us. We would appreciate that. And again, if you are enjoying these broadcasts, please just tell someone about it and share the link with someone, whatever you want to do. It's totally up to you. I can't make you do that. I can't make you change. And thank you to Annie for sending this article along, and for Jamie for her comments as well, and for Jen who put all this together. Thank you for doing that, Jen.
Of
We
course.
appreciate you.
My pleasure.
Okay, let's say our goodnights. Jen, go ahead first. Say goodnight to the peoples.
Good night, people. So glad you guys came out to hang out with us and talk about this particular topic. Hopefully it has enlightened you or brought about some things that you maybe need to change.
Yep.
And hearing our long-winded stories, except for Glenn, has helped give some examples on how other people have kind of walked through it. I mean, everybody's different, but we really appreciate you guys being out here with us tonight. Have a great week. If any of you guys have any prayer requests or anything, feel free to shoot it in the chat or in our Discord.
Okay. Thank you,
Hey,
Jen.
and BB's here. Good night,
Yep.
BB.
You beat me to it. Hello, BB. Thanks for stopping by. Okay, Glenn, say goodnight to the peoples, please.
Good night. Talk soon. Bye. You said you wanted the shortest answers.
No, that's not what she said.
No, well, if you're trying to make me change, I'm not going to do it. I'll put up the fourth wall. Good night, everyone. Good to be here.
Put you in that rocket, Glenn.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know. People who listen to this podcast, they really do understand how you two are such a pain in the ass.
You know you love us.
Oh, a little bit.
Yay! Validation.
Oh, no.
In his own time.
What have I done? Sandra. What's to call Sandra? Can I rescind that, please?
You're the producer. You could cut that out.
Okay, it's all gone now. Okay. Good night.
Thank you, Glenn. All right, guys, that's it for us. And just as a reminder, we're not doing the Discord on Tuesdays anymore for now. But if anyone in the chat or anyone hears the playback, if you want to have a conversation with us, just let us know. We can set up a time to use.
Or just hang out. Yeah.
Just hang out, whatever. Yeah. So just let us know so you can contact us and let us know if you have that desire. But that's it. Okay. All right. Thank you, guys. This has been TSL Redemption, and we're grateful to everyone that stopped in, everyone that's listening. We'll be back again next Sunday. Not sure who's doing the write-up or what the topic will be, but it'll be awesome. So we'll see you guys next Sunday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Until then, good night and God bless. Thanks for listening.